A serving Metropolitan Police officer has been charged with rape. 46-year-old David Carrick of Stevenage, Hertfordshire, has been arrested by Hertfordshire Constabulary over an alleged offence committed in St Albans last year. So, after the cases of Sarah Everard and Sabina Nessa, what state does this leave the Met Police in? Let's get more on this now with former Met Police officer Chris Hobbs. Chris, this isn't a good look, is it? I mean, you know, if we were concerned that the police weren't doing a good, robust job to protect women, we're going to be even less convinced now.
Yes, without a doubt. I mean, a collective shudder would have gone through the whole of the police service in the UK when this news broke. We must remember, of course, that it is sub judice. We've got to wait for the outcome of the case. We can't discuss it in detail. But in terms of it not being a good look, no, it isn't. And I think police officers across the country will be absolutely dismayed by what's happened. Having said that, I was out the London Marathon yesterday, and I must admit I did wonder whether police officers, in the light of what's occurred, were going to be treated as pariahs. In other words, whether people would avoid them, throw insults at them, especially as there was a protest as well in the park. And in fact, everything seemed pretty much as normal, with women going up asking the directions and so on and so forth. Now, yes, it's in a park, lots of people around, it's daylight, nothing bad's going to happen anyway. But that gave me some sense of slight relief. But yes, it is a problem. And at the moment, the police service is getting absolutely hammered across the board, and certainly by the media, by the newspapers. And I think police officers pretty much are in despair. And they do have to go about their ordinary duties on a daily basis, regardless. They still have to go out there and do their best in some very, very difficult situations, made even more difficult by these recent events, tragic events, it must be said.
Well, a question I'm sure a lot of women have now is, given the police are the ones to charge and arrest criminals and to keep our society safe, where are the checks and balances and protections to make sure that police officers aren't or don't become criminals themselves?
Yes, that's a very good question. And within the police community, there have been a lot of discussion around vetting. Howdy Cousins, for example, make 2 transfers, be heavily in debt if reports are accurate. How did he manage to get into the Met and actually to guard Parliament? So there are massive issues around vetting, even vetting of new recruits, because as you know, there's a drive now to get these 20,000 officers back. They're not new officers as such, but back to get the numbers up to where they were in 2010. There are concerns that vetting may not be as thorough as it needs to be. And one of the key factors I heard from someone who's in the or was in the professional standards department of the Met, and he said one of the key indicators is whether officers are in debt. And that's often an indicator that something is going wrong. Now, you need thorough vetting to do that. I was DV, developed vetting, which is one of the highest levels of vetting. And my goodness, that was massively intrusive, but necessary. And you have to say, yes, shouldn't that be done with all recruits in the police, all transfers? But it is hugely resource intensive and very, very expensive. But it might be something that the Home Office will have to consider.
Well, how on earth do we go about making sure that policemen possess the right sort of attitudes towards women? Because we heard in the wake of Wayne Couzens' horrific offence about a WhatsApp group with about 16 members of the police force in it, all sharing jokes which were usually pretty misogynist in tone. Now we've got another member of the same police force charged with rape. Of course, we don't yet know whether he'll be found guilty or not. But I remember when I was growing up, my grandma telling me, if ever you're worried, if ever you're in trouble, look for a police officer. Then we didn't have any police officers on our streets, and now it seems that they're the last people you'd want to turn to. So what on earth can the police force do to make sure, at the very least, that police officers don't pose a threat to women?
Well, I think one of the things that the police do very badly is actually show what they're doing well. Because one of the many things they do, well, for example, let's look at mental health issues. Now, police are massively tied up, as I'm sure you know, with people in mental health crises. A lot of those people are female. So police officers have to deal with them often for hours and hours at a time. And I have to say, do so incredibly well. A friend of mine is a mental health triage nurse. She has nothing but praise for the way police officers deal with people in mental health crises, sometimes for hours at a time. And one was apparently a female going berserk the other day. So perhaps people need to recognise what police do well. Having said that, there's a real problem in terms of safeguarding units, where these offences are dealt with. Police officers, and I can see why, do not want to be part, many of them, in those safeguarding units, not because there's any bias or prejudice against the victims, frequently women, but because they get 30, 40 cases running at a time and stuff falls through the cracks. And when you've got offences, for example, like rape, the evidential bar is set very, very high. So these units are not popular. If we're going to get more police resources in, let's get them into those units. Let's give women the attention that they deserve, and let's get these cases prosecuted, and let's get offenders in front of the courts, be they police officers, be they MPs, be they doctors, be they teachers. They need to be dealt with, and we need an efficient system by which they're dealt with. And at the moment, frankly, that isn't there.
Now, Chris, you, a former Met police officer, would it be fair to say that there might be evidence of a bit of a locker room mentality among male police officers?
Well, that's what we're hearing a lot of. I must admit, canteen culture, it's often called. I do know, obviously, a lot of police officers, female police officers I've served with over 32 years. I like to think that most of them had enjoyable, satisfying careers. There will be occasions when things haven't worked out. I also know of 3 cases involving male police officers who were involved in abusing their wives' stroke partners. That's over 32 years. Not acceptable and very, very difficult to deal with, in that the female partners didn't want to make formal complaints against those male officers. So there are issues there. In terms of the locker room mentality, I suppose to a certain extent it exists, but on the other hand, it also incorporates the female officers. When we had canteens, and they've all gone, we used to sit around as a team, men and women, and we used to laugh, we used to joke, and we used to de-stress, and we used to exchange problems, and we were a team. And I really do think that is the basis of canteen culture. And yes, some of the jokes are a little bit crude, and some of what goes on WhatsApp, for example, isn't acceptable. Some officers do cross the line, but often it is other officers who bring them to book. So I think some consolation can be had from that. But overall, policing is now a far more difficult job than when I was a PC. And overall, in terms of what they have to deal with, including dealing with victims of serious crime, I think police officers do an excellent job. And unfortunately, in this furore, that I must admit in some ways is necessary, but in other ways you think perhaps is being a bit unbalanced. Police officers are suffering, and I fear this is going to hit recruiting, and it's also going to hit retention. So in other words, a lot of police officers will say, I'm getting battered out on the streets, I'm getting battered in the media, there's no balance here, I'm off, I'm going, and we're going to lose some good officers unless we get some balance back. But having said that, these issues need to be addressed.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.